Hi everyone, it's the Assyrian priestess with you. I hope this finds you well. Today I am very excited for our tarot talk because we are going to explore the Seven of Swords card. A man in the act of carrying away 5 swords rapidly. The 2 others of the card remain stuck in the ground. A camp is close at hand. The divinatory meanings of this card are design, attempt, wish, hope, confidence, also quarreling, a plan that may fail, annoyance. The design is uncertain in its import because the significations are widely at variance with each other. When reversed, this card could indicate good advice, counsel, instruction, or slander and gossip. The most notable feature of this image that has been remarked upon over the last century is the main figure's gait, who appears to be sneakily escaping with the swords. Similarly remarked upon is the fact that he is holding the swords by their blades, hardly the work of a warrior or spy. The solution to this design's mystery is found in a Shakespeare reference from which Pamela Coleman Smith likely drew the card. It is from Henry V, describing exactly the scene Pamela has painted. The soldiers in silhouette are also mentioned, and the figure's identity is an armourer, whose work gives a, quote, dreadful note of preparation. He carries the swords not as a fighter, but as a swordsmith behind the scenes of battle, adding to our interpretation of the card as a reminder to check behind the scenes. And from Act 4, from Henry V, prologue, and chide the cripple, tardy-gated knight, who like a foul and ugly witch doth limp so tediously away. The poor condemned English, like sacrifices by their watchful fires, sit patiently and idly ruminate the morning's danger, and their gesture sad. This is from the book by Marcus Katz and Tali Goodwin called Secrets of the Waite Smith Tarot. And now I'm going to refer to my own notes and to the artwork that you can see displayed here. So let me know in the comments if how you interpret the Seven of Swords. It is probably the most despised card from the Minor Arcana. Let me know. It is a very uncomfortable card to receive. I'm hoping that in our tarot talk today that some of it can be demystified so it loses some of its grip on our psyche. So, some of the keywords that I've written are strategic intent, cunning, differing agendas, protecting your interests, trust, dissent, outwitting oneself, war, foreigner, thievery, stealth, futility, unstable effort, lack of honor, mischief, something for nothing, and getting away with it. Now, reversed, it could mean allowing oneself to be taken advantage of, or never trusting people. It can also lean into inherited trauma, mental instability, and complex PTSD. Now, of course, as a reader, you are not a psychologist, but the person, whether you're reading for yourself or others, will know what their state of mind is like. Because, of course, the swords suit in the tarot is very much about thought and the mind. And so we must consider mental stability and instability as part of the story. Now, in the Dark Goddess Tarot by Lorenzi Prince, she depicts the goddess of the Seven of Air as Laverna, the Roman goddess of thieves. You can see there. And the clothing of the person in the original Rider Waite, so you can see in the teeny tiny pocket version, is flashy because he's wearing a spotted cloak, red boots. It's foreign due to the hat. So according to Katz and Goodwin, he is a Frenchman, but it could mean any foreigner. It's someone not from your camp. Or it's you and you're the foreigner. And you realize that you've got to get out of there with everything that you can get out of it. There is a little bit of I'm better than you energy here, right? Now, the gait is interesting. It's the way he steps. It's his feet. And he's about to trip. So that's the warning with this card, is if you're trying to get away with something or you've had to strategically maneuver, be careful with how you handle the situation, firstly, because he is holding the swords like someone who doesn't know the danger of a blade, right? So you'll teach a child, for example, how to hold a blade and how to grasp for one, because if you pick it up from the sharp end, you will have a very nasty accident. In the After Tarot, you can see he's about to walk into a snare. So be crafty. And it's interesting here, this is a very complex card, because there are multiple groups at play. And so even though this guy thinks he is crafty, someone else might be smarter than him and outsmart him, right? And so you can see the campground there. But of course, who actually, there are sentinels at the points outside of the campground as well. Either they're scouts or they're guards. So he's about to get found out by his own side or the enemy. Now, I really like, here we can see, I've got my little pointer. I don't know if it's really going to work. It's a bit teacherish, but here we have the Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Valenza. And we can see the Harlequin, and she's doing a trick. You can also notice that her feet are askew. She's not quite balancing the blade well enough. It could fall and slice her feet. Also notice, look, she's a sword swallower. She, he, they. But the rope is actually frayed. So she is also about to be met with potentially a very gruesome accident in her attempt to wow you. She's also wearing quite a beautiful gown in the image as well. So when we think of this sort of in a divinatory way, someone or yourself is trying to impress you, but they're also, something's not right. They're trying to get away with something and they're not as impressive as they appear. They're actually probably quite clumsy. Or your plan is flawed. So, Patrick Valenza's message is, be careful of not making a fool of yourself. That your plan is ill-conceived and it will lead to ruin. And this is sort of echoed in Crowley's Thoth deck, which we can see here. He calls it futility. In the image, we have a very strong blade in the middle, guided by a crescent moon, and 6 blades trying to take on the strong blade, but it won't work. The card is ruled by the placement moon in Aquarius. Crowley talks about it being hidden and in the dark, which is actually reflected in the Mythic Tarot here, which we have Orestes sneaking into Argos in the dead of night. And I'll talk about that in a moment. In the traditional Rider-Waite, it's a sunny and clear day. Notice it's completely yellow, not a cloud in the sky in the original. But of course, clouds begin to form in the after tarot, right? But it also alludes to that someone's doing this right under your nose, or you are. And I guess that's the cleverness of stealth, that it can happen right underneath our nose in broad daylight. Thoth says that this is the card of trying to tolerate something or compromise. It's the policy of appeasement, he calls it, which will be disastrous for you. It's striving in vain. So when we tolerate something or someone is trying to appease us, it's futile. We're just not down with that program. We just don't agree. This is not a stable energy, right? Now, in the Babylonian tarot, you will see 2 figures, not one, who are escaping, or they're about to ambush, or, you know, the themes of domination are here. Interestingly, the arrows in the Babylonian tarot are going in all directions. So it also brings up this idea of, is someone trying to trick you, or are you also trying to outwit them and yourself? So this is the complexity of this card, which is why it is hard to read. There's a lot of different elements at play. Reversed, according to Sandra, Tabatha, Cicero, she says it's about getting therapy, getting help, and getting guidance. So she also goes down this kind of mental health road. Now, for me, it's definitely any 7 links me directly to the 7th gate of Ishtar's descent to the underworld. Her descent is a daring act that is futile. She almost loses her life. It is a sort of Hail Mary pass, as they say. It's by the grace of the gods that she even gets out alive. Ereshkigal reduces the goddess Ishtar to nothing but a sack of flesh that she hangs upon a hook. So another theme here is get back up. If you're trying to get away with something, or maybe you need to use cunning to get something that you want or to get an outcome that you want, get back up, right? Create a paper trail, as they say. I think as well, when we dive deeper into the feminine mysteries, the 7 of Swords takes us to a place where we must choose our own dignity, our own safety, and our own interests. So the 2-dimensional reading of this is someone is out to swindle you, trick you, lie, cheat, or steal. which is probably true, but you probably also have a hand in that game as well. And when we think of like sociopolitics and economics, everybody is sort of out for their own agenda, right? So this is the complexity of this card. Like when you think of Laverna, goddess of thieves, who is to put moral judgment on the thieves who are trying to, feed their families, get access to means when maybe they're locked out? Which is why Laverna was actually beloved to the Romans and had a cult. Become undetected is a message of this card. Don't go toe-to-toe with the person you're dealing with. This is not the kind of person you can sit down with a cup of tea and say, let's talk it out, darling. You won't win, and you know that. So you also must become ungovernable. Do not be beholden to who loves you or who likes you or what people think. No, that's not what you need to do in this scenario. You need to be out for yourself. Now, in the Tantric Dakini Oracle by Nick Douglas and Penny Slinger, which is this image here. Now, Tantric Dakini Oracle takes us to a completely other zone, which I absolutely love, which is this number 29. They call it self-preservation. And you can see this beautiful kind of like Egyptian sarcophagus feminine figure with her arms crossed upon her chest. And she's very aloof. She's very serene. She's withdrawn into her divine feminine, not grasping, just observing energy, right? She's so serene and subtle and in herself, even as the winds of change blow around the desert around her. So there is a bit of that. If trickery is afoot by yourself or others, watch and observe. Don't try and make a play, right? Which is why Crowley warns it's the futility card, because you won't win. It is likely that there are no winners and you will only get found out. Now, in the Mythic Tarot here, we see the figure of Orestes. And he's sneaking into Argos in the dead of night because he has been tasked by the gods to commit the heinous crime of matricide. Now, like or love or hate Orestes, this is an amoral card, because when you think of, who would murder their mother, this is also a cautionary tale for Clytemnestra herself, who is also guilty of a bloodied hand. I believe Clytemnestra murders her husband in order, to benefit her lover. So there are multiple kind of thieves and tricks afoot in this card. Don't be so simplistic to just think, well, poor little innocent me. Everybody's out to get me. When it's reversed, it could be a little bit, everyone's out to get me, which is where you need to really kind of align with that deep, dark, feminine spirit in the self-preservation card of who are you and what do you need to feel secure, to feel safe, and to protect your interests. In order to achieve your goal, you mustn't ask or confront, but sort of plot to get to where you need to go. And I think the last thing I want to say here is I've got Chris Madsen's deck here, which would probably be the most kind of feminist interpretations. And I actually wish I had more post-colonial queer decks, because I love how they play with the archetypes. So I might put that on my to-do list. Maybe we'll do a tarot talk on those decks who kind of like play with gender and play with the roles. But Chris Madsen's deck shows a woman, and in one hand she holds the scythe, and in the other a cross, a neon cross, which sort of alludes to the rock and the hard place women's bodies are put in under patriarchy, under capitalism. You know, we can moralize about thievery and getting away with it and not showing all of our cards, but we can also maybe understand that it's not always safe to do so. Women are grossly underpaid. Women are cast out and burdened by a lot of social norms that oppress them. So here the card leans into a kind of deconstructive element of power itself, how power works itself. And Gloria Anzaldúa, who was the late Gloria Anzaldúa, she died in very tragic circumstances. She is a theorist and a poet, and she speaks about the border crossings of Mexican people, not just with their identity, but literally to the US. And also all the other border crossings that we must sneakily and stealthily do, speak other languages, speak other codes, so that you can go undetected. She is also queer, which raises a lot of safety issues for LGBTQIA plus people. And the quote that I love from her is from a longer poem. And the quote is, "This is my home, this thin edge of barbed wire." So it kind of leaves us with this unsettled feeling of who are the victors, who are the losers, and what do we, the little people, need to do to get away with stuff? But also when people try and get away with stuff with us, you know, are they heinous monsters, or are they also just doing what they need to do to survive? For better or worse, you are always in charge of yourself. And tarot is art. It's a conversation that speaks back. Now, years ago, 7 years ago, I think, I checked today, I wrote, how interesting, 7 and 7. I wrote a poem about this card called The Seven of Swords. And it is very much linked to inherited legacies of mistrust, but also the themes of war and domination and survival and exile. So I'll link it in the comments, or, you know, in the description box if you're interested. Let me know. I might even put it up on Patreon if you're interested. So yes, that's our tarot talk done today. Of course, so much more we could talk about. I really enjoyed researching this. I probably read about 7 books to get here. Again, the number 7, how wonderful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, I will leave you with my love and courage until we meet again. Bye for now.